Underoos! Oh, look behind you. It's the $1 billion movie club. Right behind you, landing on top of that car.
Whoa, whoa.
Hello, welcome to this week's episode of the $1 billion Movie Club. Each and every week, we look at movies that made a lot of money and we go, ooh, this is money. Better spend it here than on a war, like a civil war. I am your host, as always, Christian Simpson, and with me is.
Pawan Mehta.
Hello, Pawan. How are you doing today?
I'm all right.
Doing all right?
You know what though? I'm not happy with you. You know why?
Whoa,
Because
what?
we're in a civil war.
Oh my God. That's crazy. What is this film we're talking about this week, Pawan?
We're talking about Marvel Studios Captain America: The Civil War.
I don't
And
know
today
if the word
I'm angry
the.
at you.
I don't know if the word the is in the title.
Whoa. You calling me out on
Yeah.
the name of this movie?
We are not in a truce.
I'm not signing your paperwork.
Oh man, I have a lot of paperwork. Well, I gotta get it all done by May 6th, 2016, the date that this film premiered in the US and Canadian markets with a budget of $250 million. Its opening weekend, it opens to $179.1 million, at the time the fifth highest grossing opening weekend domestically. It was number one at the box office for 2 weekends until it was dethroned by the Angry Birds movie. What
They made
a
a sequel to
surprise.
that one too.
They made a sequel, which for at one point was the highest rated video game adaptation of a movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yeah.
What
What do you
a
mean isn't it still?
I want to say Sonic or Detective Pikachu may have dethroned it since. I don't remember. But that's not the movie. We're talking about Captain America Civil War to cross 1 billion at global box office. This is a press release from the Walt Disney Pictures Company Studios place from May 20th, 2016. Marvel's Captain America Civil War will cross the 1 billion global mark today on only its 24th day of global release. Captain America Civil War is also Disney's 10th billion-dollar release out of the 25 films that reached the milestone in the history of the industry.
By the way, what year did this movie come out?
2016.
2016. I just wanted to note that I think there's like 4 or 5 movies that reach 1 billion this year, and all of them are Disney.
All Disney. Hey, Pon, get ready for 2019, where all but I think it's 9 films made $1 billion. All but 7 of them are Disney, and 8th is Spider-Man: Far From Home. Disney, you're taking
Isn't
over.
the 9th one Aquaman?
9th one, other DC movie, Joker. It's a juxtaposition of where we are as a society, where Disney makes all the movies, but then a movie like Joker is up there as well. Captain America Civil War would go on to gross 408 and take 2. Captain America Civil War would go on to make $408 million domestically and $1.153 billion worldwide. At the time, it was the 18th highest grossing domestically and 12th worldwide. Currently sits at 33 domestic and 22 worldwide. Pawan Mehta.
Mm-hmm.
What happens in this particular film?
So we open on Captain USA boy being like, we got to get the neo-Nazi. He's going to do the bad thing. And then they're like chasing him down. It's like, oh no, he's got a bomb. And then Scarlet Witch woman just like, no, we got to stop it. And then boom, explosion, building destroyed, people dead. It's like, oh no, people dead. This keeps happening. What are we going to do about it? And then Tony shows up and is like, listen, people are angry at me that things that I've done have caused people to die. So let's just offset future guilt of that happening to the US government. That's the best plan. And then Captain USA boy's like, no, Tony, we can't give up our autonomy like that. And then there's a signing, and then Panther Man is there, and then it's like, oh no, there's a bomb going off here too, and then Panther Man's dad is not here anymore, and then Panther Man's like, I'm gonna kill the man who killed my man, and then he goes after the guy who's Captain USA Man's best bud from back in the day. And then he's like, but I didn't do it. And then Captain USA Man's like, I don't know if I believe you, but like, I like you. So I'm going to help you. So then he helps him. And now he's an enemy of the state. and then they're like, all right, we got to pick up this other dude. And then Iron Man's like, all right, let me get my own reinforcements. And then they meet at an airport and they go pew 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 at each other. And then Captain USA Man's like, all right, peace. And then he goes, finds the dude who's actually behind it all. And then Tony Iron Man boy chases after him, is like, I believe you now. And then the real man behind it shows them a clip, just a brief footage of thing that makes Iron Man angry at the guy who didn't do the explosion, and it's a fight. That's the movie.
You said it starts off with Captain America, but really it starts off with a flashback. Or are you just ignoring that?
Which flashback?
There's like the Bucky killing Iron Man's parents happened. Like they show it 3 times,
Oh,
2
yeah.
which are flashbacks. Anyway,
That's fine.
I'll be honest, I like this movie. I like this movie. I rewatched the entire trilogy, Captain America trilogy, for preparation of this week. Really fucking weird because there's so much in between that's covered in the other movies that it's kind of disorienting, jumping from cap to cap to cap. But I really enjoy this one. I think this is my favorite of the 3 caps.
There was a point in time where I did think this was my favorite, but like watching it this time, I'm just so tired
Of
of just these interconnected universes where it's like, oh, we're gonna introduce things here that are gonna be more important later, and like you don't need to. We're setting things up as opposed to like just telling a cohesive story. Just
is
by
there
itself.
a lot of? I think there are glaring points of that in something like Spidey. I think you could say that with Black Panther. Maybe even Ant-Man. Ant-Man's kind of just thrown in there. But those characters, although they get a good like 3-5 minute chunk of attention on them, I think they're minor parts of the story as a whole.
I mean, even in terms of just the overall plot itself, you can't watch this film in isolation without knowing anything else.
How is that different from like the 8th episode of a TV show?
Yeah, but that's not why I go to watch 2.5-hour movies, Miss Simpson.
No, that's fair. That's a fair point. It's I don't know. I think whether you like it or not, these movies, the Marvel Cinematic Universe is a different beast of itself.
Speaking of television, though,
yes.
Man, was this shot like one?
Go on.
The action scenes, the amount of cuts, I just wanted them to stay on like these moments, but like no, you can't actually see the action.
So let's point out this is directed by the Russo brothers, best known for their Marvel movies. Now they've done Winter Soldier, Civil War, and Infinity War and Endgame. For that, best known for stuff like Community, Arrested Development. I'd argue because of Arrested Development and really what they've done, they're some of the most notable directors of the century. But yeah, it is. I feel like that's the big argument people make about the action in the Marvel movies is the amount of cuts. And I thought it worked very well in Winter Soldier, even though that's my personal least favorite of the 3, which I think is an unpopular opinion. But it worked there because that film is trying to give you the sense of paranoia and uncertainty, and kind of you're not really sure what's going on, and so it's disorienting a bit in that, and I don't think that worked as well in this one.
In this one, you know what it really reminded me of?
Hmm.
Have you ever seen that clip in isolation from Taken 3
No,
where it's just Liam Neeson climbing a fence and there's like 13 shots to do this 9-second clip?
no, but I gotta watch this now. I gotta watch this now. I what bothered me with the action in this movie was the shakiness of the camera, but I found that more prevalent early on. Um, it's not like I think of the quintessential moment of this movie is the airport fight, right?
Yeah, but see, the thing is, one thing I'm starting to really notice with these Marvel movies is that the most iconic moments from it are just people standing and looking at each other.
Are
Because
they?
when they actually show the action, nothing, you can't keep it in your mind because it keeps cutting. There's nothing really there to hold on to mentally.
I point to the final fight between Iron Man, Bucky, and Cap.
Okay, there was
There's
like a good 45 seconds where it showcases what this movie could have been like if it did have better like shot composition for its fights.
But is that something I realized watching this movie in particular, right? Because you mentioned it, it's hard to jump into this without previous knowledge of any of the other movies, and I feel like you come to the MCU specifically for the spectacle. You're told there's going to be superheroes fighting, etc., but you end up staying for the characters.
All right, let's get into that.
All right, well, let me just, so yes, there are these large spectacles where everything is happening. That's what grabs people. But then I think you stay for the characters, which I guess you want to dig into more.
Let's talk about Iron Man. I'm
Okay.
still upset.
It's I think if you take out Ultron, it works. There's a hesitancy from him in early on in this movie to wear a suit. He has the one on the hand as a precautionary thing, but even in the beginning, Natasha's like, "Hey, did you bring a suit?" And he's like, "Yeah, I have a
But
Tom
you
Ford
can't
suit."
have it both ways. Because this
What?
is a movie where you do need to watch them all to like
Oh
really
no, no,
get
no, no.
invested in the characters.
I'm not saying you should skip Ultron, which actually you probably should. But I'm saying, all right, go on, go on. You explain your problems with Tony again.
The thing is, it feels like they really don't know what to do with him, like
How
long
so?
term at this point.
How so?
Because like it feels like in a sense he keeps going through the same character arc, or like he's in this movie specifically, he is positioned more as like the bad guy.
Yes.
But it also feels like
what is the repeated character arc?
from Ultron onward, where it's like, oh, I really messed up. I need to make this right. And in doing so, he keeps fucking up.
Is not. How is his arc in this similar to Ultron?
Never mind.
No, I'm
No, no, I'm just
question.
gonna drop it because I can't think of like further explanation of that right now.
Because Ultron is him trying to plan for the future, and then realizing that it's impossible to plan for what you don't know, right? And then he ends up creating their own enemy. In this one, it's him wanting to remove the Iron Man responsibilities as much as he can, but realizing that no, it's not better in anyone else's hands. On a beat level, it's I made this decision and we have to follow my thing. Oh, I'm wrong. But is that not just the character of him being an asshole with his ego being larger than anyone else's?
Maybe. But like we were talking about how you really can't watch this movie in isolation.
Yeah.
Going toward like Spider-Man, first Spider-Man movie.
Homecoming?
Yeah. It does feel like he's like a figure to look up to, which in this movie it establishes you really shouldn't be. And even in the scenes with Spider-Man, it kind of sets up that dynamic, but like
You can't say, oh, he shouldn't be a figure to look up to. It's bad that people look up to them.
no, I mean just like in terms of I get why Spider-Man would do that. But like it feels like the movie itself is not aware of Tony's shortcomings in that one.
Civil War?
Well,
Homecoming.
at this point I'm talking about Homecoming, but
Well,
like
isn't
that's a
Spider-Man also unaware of Tony's shortcomings? That's the Spider-Man movie from Spider-Man's point of view. I haven't watched Homecoming in years, so I vaguely remember what Tony's involvement in that movie is, but like it's that movie's from Spider-Man's perspective.
I don't know if because you're the main character it's from your perspective.
More so than any other character in that movie.
I don't know. It also just comes down to acting choices and decisions where like you don't really get the sense of his character in that movie being in that sort of zone. But I digress.
We'll
Going
get
back
to
to this
Spider-Man
movie,
later.
let's talk. I don't know. What do you want to talk about?
No, I genuinely think you stay for the characters. And I think it's not all perfectly handled. You know, I rewatching this, I'm more on board with Wanda and Vision, but I think that's because I watched all of WandaVision. You know, I Anthony Mackie and Don Cheadle are kind of just the black best friend,
Yeah,
and that's it. But I'll be honest, they're really cool and
they
awesome, and
both get one.
I'm excited to I this movie made me realize, oh, I am gonna watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I was like, no, but no, I am because I like these characters and this movie. I don't know what this movie is about thematically, but it is an exploration of the relationships of these that they've established.
It
Cap,
does feel very much a product of specifically that year and the discourse that was relating to superhero movies at that time, which
it
was like,
is.
oh, there's all this destruction in these movies. Well, do they not care about like the millions that are probably dead in the
Mhm,
wake of their like fights?
mhm. Yeah, it's very odd that both DC and Marvel had Civil War and Batman v Superman come out the same year, and for a brief second they were supposed to come out on the same day. Do you remember this? Obviously didn't. Um, but yeah, it is interesting they finally decided to tackle that at the same time. I do think rewatching Winter Soldier and Civil War that at this point in the MCU they're focused and grounding it in reality. The first the first phase feels very much like setups to building to this comic booky thing, right? This big comic book event that is the Avengers. And then I think phase two kind of deepens it, and you get like Tony dealing with PTSD in Iron Man 3. You get Cap and this kind of political paranoia in Winter Soldier, and you get Civil War of you place them in this real world. People are dying from their actions.
I mean, technically, isn't Civil War the start of Phase 3?
It is. I think phase two, phase three are kind of that round mid phase three when you start getting your Thor Ragnaroks and your Guardians 2 is when you start doing you get to have more a little more, not a lot, but a little more individuality to the movies.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I liked in this movie um you saw Steve and Natasha's relationship get tested, which was something that
What is their relationship?
So that was my thought as well until I rewatched Winter Soldier.
I didn't like their relationship in Winter Soldier.
When was the last time you watched Winter Soldier?
I mean, it's been a while, but like thinking back on it, it does also just feel rather cliche in its
What?
own right.
What's cliched?
In terms of like, okay, I just don't like the overall handling of the Black Widow character in the MCU overall.
Okay, that's fair.
Because what is her character?
She is someone who wants to run away and has to figure out how to stay and take part. Does that make sense?
I don't remember that really
So in the
being
in Winter Soldier, shield explodes, whatever, right?
okay. What flaws does she have, or like what informs her character?
There's this past that's hidden that that slowly gets teased out, and she questions if she's still a good person, if she's able to
Okay, sure. What's the biggest example of her like sad past in this franchise so far?
but it's she's never been the main character, so we can go through her entire backstory.
Yeah, but I mean, like the fact that the main thing that we know about her backstory is she feels like a monster because she can't have children.
No, 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 no. We know that she's an agent and she's done some shit in the past. Her in the Avenger movies are worse than her outside of the Avenger movies. Because I'm talking about the relationships, but then this movie brings up her and Bruce. I'm like, no, get that away from her. That relationship is so weird with what they set up in Winter Soldier that it's like, why? Why are we going back to this?
You know, I actually took a couple of notes for this movie, so I'm just gonna go through those.
Go on, go on.
First one, that interrogation scene where he was dangling the man above the sink.
Mhm.
I don't know why, but the blocking was so terrible in the sense that like you could tell in the initial shots when it was showing him dangling above it, his mouth was above the rim of the sink. So he shouldn't be drowning. But then like when they're actually showing that, it's like, oh nope, now he's lower.
Did not notice that. Did not notice that.
Which I mean, yes, it's kind of nitpicky, but like that's what I'm resorting to because I don't care much. But like also, whoever
but why
did
don't you
the
care? Why don't you care? That's what I want to know. Because I'll reiterate, I feel like we're harsh on the MCU typically on this podcast. I have fun with them. I don't know what they're about. I don't know what themes this movie is wrestling with, but I do like the character interactions.
yeah, that's the thing. It just feels like for me, it just feels like events happening, and then you go here and more things happen, and then you go there and more things happen. It just feels, you know what? I'm gonna piss some people off.
I like that. I like that.
It just feels like a more competent version of Transformers.
No, I like a good hot take, but no. Come on. That's an exaggeration of the exaggerated sorts.
I mean, isn't that what hot takes are for?
No, because sometimes a hot take is a real take. Those are the hot takes I like.
Because, like, again, after Iron Man 3, I really just did not care about Tony Stark as a character anymore. I think he should have just left.
He's never the main presence, though. I
he
think this
kind of is in this
is
one.
this is the most Tony we get after Iron Man 3, Ultron, I guess, right?
But like also Captain America. I don't even know what to say about his character in this movie.
Captain America is so fucking stubborn. Of course, he's Captain America. And I so I never liked the first Captain America. And then Winter Soldier, I
If
saw the
anything,
one
that's the
time, didn't
Captain
care a lot.
America movie I enjoyed the most.
Well, I on this rewatch, I was like, whoa, that first Captain America is awesome. It feels
Yeah,
so different.
and of like the first lot of movies, I would say maybe even including no, maybe I don't know, him and Loki about equal, but like that first lot of movies, best established villain.
Okay. And I think Red Skull's very generic. Haha, I'm evil. I'm evil Nazi.
I mean, but like that's Red Skull.
All right.
But like the way the character was set up and introduced and all that, he was a presence in that movie where it feels like for most of these Marvel movies, the villains are barely there.
Oh, are we entering our Zemo conversation? What the fuck was that character? Who is it? It's Daniel Bruhl, right? Who plays Zemo in this one?
You know, before rewatching this, I forgot there even was like a an evil presence that like causes this to happen.
Yeah. It doesn't work well. It's the ideas of this person being so uh enamored with revenge and hatred and pain that he wants to go after the Avengers kind of makes sense, but it's such a
But there's no
ridiculous
space for
way
it
of
in this movie.
no. Yeah, it's Daniel Bruhl playing Helmut Zemo. He returns in Winter Soldier and Falcon, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier. There's like I guess he dances in one episode because that's popular on the Twitters nowadays. Yeah, I forgot he was in here, and he's fine in it. It's just he's in and out, and
Again, it's one of the
But-
establishment of him as the villain really reminded me of television. You know why?
Why?
Because it had that info dump, which is
Yes.
so typical of like hour-long dramas that are like police procedurals that are like, oh, here's this thing where we know this. Let's go get him.
Are you wait info dump as in the monologue at the end? He has.
No, I'm talking about when Tony is on the plane, on the helicopter, just looking up Zemo and is like explains his backstory.
Oh, I forgot that happened. I forgot that happened. I wanted to say something about Zemo and I forgot. What was I going to say? I was going to say words. Yet they're not.
It is very
coming.
much with his character a tell instead of showing.
I do
sort
have
of
a
thing.
question that I never thought of till at this moment. Because you're talking about he doesn't have much of a presence in this movie. Is that not the point that he's kind of sneaking around and hidden? And it's kind of in the background. You get hints of it because you need to know, so it pays off at the end. But he's never the
Yeah,
focus.
but it's not even really hints. It's just like halfway through the movie, they're like, "Oh, it's this guy. It was him."
That's fair.
And here's why, and here's his explanation, and here's all this information we're giving to you right now.
That's I genuinely don't know. That's my genuine question.
If anything, I think Red Skull fits into what you were just talking about more so than Zemo did.
Sure. There's also the weird, like, half the movie, it's like, oh, yeah, that's a great self-portrait of me. And you only see red paint. And it's like, they weirdly keep hinting at Red Skull. I'm like, okay, come on. This wasn't a good reveal.
I mean, that was a bit tongue-in-cheek. I'll give him that.
One aspect of the Marvel movies that I think we officially hit, we're getting there, but like, we're at the point where we're like, every person playing any character in this movie is a big name. It's really fun seeing like, so obviously you got the Avengers. You got your I'm on the Wikipedia page looking. You got Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr., Scarlett Johansson, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Don Cheadle, Jeremy Renner, Chadwick Boseman, Paul Bettany, Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Rudd, Emily Van Camp, Tom Holland, etc., right? But then you get Martin Freeman's in here as like this weird agent. He's cool. John
He
Slattery
comes back in Black Panther.
He does come back in Black Panther. John Slattery is uh Tony's dad. You got Marissa Tomei.
Oh yeah, he was in Mad Men.
Yep,
That's
yep.
that's why I recognized his face.
He a madman. Marissa Tomei is Aunt May. Don't like all the jokes about her being hot. Like
Yeah.
you had to include that.
You know what? Here's another thing about the aspect where I feel like the idea that it's focusing on the characters does not work. Going to these characters that are just briefly brought up, like Black Panther and Spider-Man,
Hmm.
they are focal points, but like they gloss over all establishments of like Spider-Man specifically and a bit with Black Panther.
Is that not the point? For at least for Peter?
Honestly, it just feels kind of lazy because it's like, oh, we've already seen the like backstory to his character so many times in movies. Why would we do it again?
Again, it's not their movies in this movie. You're not
But
gonna
like,
get into their history when it's not. It's the intro, and then we're going to go into their history on their later, and maybe that's the wrong thing to do. But
because again, I have no reason to care about them.
I agree with that for Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man is so randomly tossed in there, and then there's a line where Tony's like, "Oh, you brought, I don't know, Hawkeye or Wanda in this." It's like, Tony, you took a teenager you've never met and threw him in this. That doesn't make any sense at all. I don't think Spidey's um perfectly mixed into it. He feels more forced to me than Black Panther did.
Also, though, going back to Captain America,
Hmm.
something I found personally off-putting.
Hmm.
He makes out with the niece.
Yes. I will say he was attracted to her before he knew he was her niece. Still fucking weird.
Yeah, like at that point, I think it would be better to back off. But like, no, she's too hot, man.
Also, like a week after his first love and her aunt died.
Yeah, and she just says, "I've been waiting so." No, no.
And I guess it's because Cap's only in the Avenger movies after this, but she doesn't show up in the later movies. Like I read, she does show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier, but like she just disappears.
Just I didn't like that, and it
It's
just
very odd.
and it goes back to that. It goes back to that like typical like big budget movie where it's like it felt like a reward sort of moment. You know what I mean? Like the guy has to get the girl,
I could see that. I could see that.
and it just did not sit with me well.
Well, they don't. First off, she doesn't have to be her niece. I'm sure that's a comic thing. She doesn't have to be her niece. It's not. It's literally not mentioned in Winter Soldier.
Yeah, because it's like, oh, I was keeping it a secret.
You did need to do that. Secondly, there's not enough to really establish them having a thing. There are sparks, but it's never a thing between the two of them. And so this kiss feels so random.
Honestly, that's what it feels like in most movies that go for this sort of thing for me. So, okay.
I will say, it's kind of worth it for the moment of both Bucky and Sam going, giving a little
No,
smile and not. It's funny.
No.
It's funny.
no, I just scrap that. Just no.
That's funny.
Also, there there was this one moment with Rhodey's character where he was like, where like people were questioning why he signed the accords. Which, if we're focusing on the characters, he was always a soldier, so it makes complete sense why he would do that.
Also,
He was always just like an arm of the U.S. like military and stuff
yes.
like that.
Yes.
So why would anyone be
Also-
questioning why he would do it?
The black best friends gotta follow their best friends. Let's be honest. That's why Rhodey and Sam sided with their people. I don't understand why Sam is so close to Cap. Like he had no friends before Cap or anything. But okay.
But I don't know. I just found the idea that that Rhodey might have been questioning that aspect of it. Just like, no, he wasn't, because he
Was that a popular critique when the movie came out? I don't remember that take.
I don't think so, because Rhodey doesn't have much of a character in this movie. It's just a couple lines here and there, but like those really got to me because he was always like part of the military in the sense that like, okay, it would be fine if you see like a moment or something where he is questioning what he has done in his position in that regard. But there is never any questioning from him in terms of like, yeah, I'm the Iron Patriot. I work for the president.
He kind of is the beta for the Sokovia Accords in theory, right?
Yeah,
because he
because Iron Man straight up just like made that too. Is like, all right, here, you guys could use that so I could keep working on my own.
Yeah.
But like again, that they don't touch on that in this movie either.
No. Why would they? Why would they focus on Rhodey? Who I think they still haven't focused on.
Again, you're the one who keeps saying like, oh, it's about focusing on the characters.
No. I'm not saying it. I'm saying you stay for the characters. That's different from focus on the characters. Focus is if they spent time really developing it. But it's always hints of it, and it's enough that gets people to stay.
That's just weak.
I love the scenes. I love the scenes of them all in a room talking to each other and discussing. And sometimes they're butting heads. Sometimes they're agreeing. I like the scene in the beginning where they're first discussing the Sokovia Accords. And then they're like, we should do this. We shouldn't do that. Here's a little push back and forth between these two personalities. I like the scenes in, I think, Endgame and Infinity War even have those of them like taking note of where they are right now and figure out what's the next move. And then you get a couple of barbs, you get a couple one-liners, and it works. You get this movie builds off of the relationships. What
movie is
Wanda's only relationship is with Clint. Wanda's only personal relationship is with Clint based off the end of Ultron, right? And they try to force Vision in this one. They really try to force her relationship with Vision. Feels weird in this movie, but her and Clint, and so she sides with Clint, right? Vision and Rhodey are Iron Man's dudes, so of course they're going with them. You get the little kind of back and forth between Cap and Natasha. You get Cap and Iron Man butting heads after every Avenger where they do the same exact thing.
So if it's literally ends up being, oh, you're my buddy, so I'm gonna side with you, where is their personal autonomy when it comes to deciding whether this is ethical? Because it seems like this movie is trying to make it an ethical question, but then doesn't actually do the work of doing it.
I'm saying that they are going with their best friends, more of a screenwriting sheet of let's move along. And I will say Winter Soldier, a lot of Winter Soldier is who can you trust? Do you trust the rules and the laws that supposedly are supposed to hold us up, or those that you understand who are close to you that you've built this connection with? That is where the Natasha Cap relationship was built. No other movie has really done it. And so that's why that I think works well here. Is there a problem that you have to watch 9 other movies before getting to this? Maybe. But when most of the world is that something we should complain about? I don't know. This is a new beast again. I haven't even looked at me.
Speaking of script writing decisions, there was this one moment that felt like it might have been something from a previous draft that just made it through, even though like there was things written around it that made it no longer make sense.
What?
Where there was a moment where at the funeral, Natasha shows up.
Is this what I think it is?
And she's like, I didn't want you to be alone.
Is that it, or do you also have the thought I had?
Falcon was in the
He
room
was
with
there in the
it.
funeral. He went to the ceremony. Again, I think it's trying to remind us of the intimacy of the Natasha Cap relationship, while also throwing away the fact that Falcon's like his best friend or whatever, and there
Like
with him.
he's there.
But Pawan, she doesn't. Natasha's really weird in this movie. I didn't like the line when she's fighting Winter Soldier and he basically beats her, and she goes, "You could have at least recognized me." That was your thought after being fought by this dude who might have killed you? You could have recognized me. I don't remember them fighting in the Winter Soldier, and I watched it 2 days before this movie.
I don't know what her character is in these movies.
She is. Natasha and Steve both have no one, and they're looking for people. Steve has no one because 75 years or whatever have passed. She's running from her past. And so they are both kind of these loners drifting around. And then they find each other and find this platonic relationship between them. Both Natasha and Tony want to run from their mistakes and ever possibly being blamed for their mistakes ever again. Right?
I guess. Question.
Hmm.
Let's talk about the first fight.
Yeah.
This
Are you just to make sure we're talking about? Are you talking about the fight with Crossbones?
yes.
Now, did you know Crossbones was also in Captain America 2? I didn't. I watched Captain America 2 recently. I did not.
So I recognized his face and I remember the elevator fight because it re-shows up again in Endgame.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I don't remember the fight itself. I remember the seconds leading up to it where they just look at each other.
Yeah, I don't like that fight as much as a lot of people do. I don't love the action too much in Winter Soldier. I think it does what it needs to, but I'm not as passionate about those.
But yeah, it I feel like that first fight firmly establishes that yes, you do need to be caught up on all the lore and explanations and all that going into these movies.
Is there an argument that you shouldn't? I don't think was I saying that?
I was so I'm just saying from the point of view of someone who just saw this movie in isolation like 2 days ago.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I was lost initially during that fight, and I was like, this is way too long for something that's just supposed to set up the Avengers in action. But then I remembered, oh yeah, it's that and that, and then I just like, okay.
May I, what was confusing about it? Like what was odd and
It's not that it was odd. It just felt too long for something that where I was viewing it from the perspective of just like, oh, here is the setup for things to come. So it's in a sense it's divorced from everything that is about to happen because it's just how it ends is what affects everything else.
Is it not just starting off with a big bang?
Yeah, but like you could do that in a more economic way, time-wise. Because when you keep getting explosions for like 10 minutes straight, the novelty and the spectacle of it does wear out after a while.
Yes, but I think they find cool things to do with the character powers. I like when Cap's like, let's do it like we practice, and then she like throws him Wanda throws him up with her powers. I like Falcon's little drone thingy. There are little things they did that I enjoyed.
For me, the only moment that stood out was when like Natasha was riding in on the bike, and I was like, "Damn, I could be watching Skyfall right now."
It's not the strongest sequence in the movie, but I think the action is, and maybe we have different views in this. the numerous cuts and the pace of it grabs me and gets me excited. It doesn't stick with me, but it is a roller coaster ride in this theme park of a movie.
For me, it just feels like, okay, something happened there.
That's fair. I like it. I forgot that the explosion is the dude exploding himself.
Yeah.
And so I thought it looked kind of cool when Wanda comes in like and tries to conceal it in the ball. But then obviously, people die, and that's bad. It's bad people dying. So there's that.
Yeah.
That is that. I don't know. It's just this movie. There's cool stuff in this movie. I've slowly, as this podcast has gone on, I'm like, yeah, it's dumb, but it's cool.
You know what? I'm glad that at least one of us is getting some joy out of this movie.
Oh,
Because, like, you know what? Going into this podcast, we were like, you know what? Why do these movies make money? Let's talk about it. Let's dissect it. And it's like, it's because fun explosions. But like, if you don't find those explosions fun, then what are you really getting out of it, man? And like,
but I
that's
think
where I'm at right now. I'm questioning.
there's a giant question of why the MCU over other movies, right? MCU consistently has entries on this list. While you get something like Transformers, which it's 3 and 4, 5 isn't on the list. Pirates 2 and 4, 3 and 5 aren't on the list. So on and so on. It's a weird inconsistency with most franchises, and yet this has gone to the point where Avengers, Iron Man 3, Avengers 2, Cap. We're going to talk about 2 more Avengers. We're going to talk about Captain Marvel and Black Panther and a Spider-Man. Like, why is this the franchise everyone's going to?
You know, there's another franchise that everyone keeps coming to, which is fully explained. But like, what I find interesting with that is that
Which one?
Star Wars.
Yes, but what is the law of diminishing returns?
Are there
Like
diminishing returns with Star Wars?
each movie, financially, yes. I think Star Wars is a different thing of that. It was just so fucking high. We discussed that like the first entry of each of the trilogies is the highest grossing movie of the trilogy.
Right. Right.
But somehow the MCU gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
I guess because that hook that you're talking about, that you stay for the characters and to see what they're up to in the next one. And it's just like, you got to watch the next one to keep up. That's what's causing people to go from like, I want to a mentality where they're like, I need to.
Yes. But
Which
also,
I'm not about.
but we've seen franchises do that and it doesn't work out. DC, the DCEU, Fantastic Beasts is floundering as it tries to survive and stay relevant for 3 more movies.
Well, hey, you know what? Say what you will about Fantastic Beasts. That script was on sale at Costco. So it must be big enough that like even Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald was bound in millions of copies of books and sold at a Costco.
I love that I'm the Harry Potter fan and you're the one, even jokingly maybe, I don't know, defending this.
I'm not defending its quality. I'm defending its cultural appeal, which it very much still has.
Oh yeah. If you're a fan of they have samples at Costco, right? Food samples. Also pick up J.K. Rowling's script for The Crimes of Grindelwald.
Yeah, but like the thing is, what I was trying to say with that is that they do sell books at Costco, but like they sell like the really, really, really big ones.
For a second, I thought we were going back to what we were talking before the
No.
Costco thing, but no.
I need to explain Costco.
Arban, please explain to our audiences. Maybe we have international viewers who don't know what a Costco is. Please explain what Costco
So
is.
Costco is a store that like you need a membership for, but you buy in bulk, so the costs go down.
Whoa! I think coalesce, and I was like, "What does coalesce mean?" Does that work?
Because like they buy in bulk. When it comes to like entertainment properties and stuff like that, they only buy the big properties in bulk and sell in their store. If you want like some niche titles or some like niche books, like get not your art house books. You're not gonna find like some House of Leaves.
No,
in there.
Walt,
No.
Walt, get the fuck out of here, Walt. Get the fuck out of here, Walt.
But like, you'll find your Magic Tree houses. You'll find your Goosebumps.
Are you gonna find your magic school buses?
No, because that's more of a
Really?
TV property.
Oh.
But you will. But like when Crimes of Grindelwald came out, those books were there. Both Where to Find Them and Grindelwald were both in that store next to each other, stacks and stacks and stacks of them.
You're just putting up an argument for why we need to shut down all Costco's.
No, I'm putting up an argument as to like why we need to shut down the cultural appeal of the wizarding world.
Oh.
Because then you get Grindelwald at Costco's, which should not be a thing, but it's there.
Are you telling me that you don't want this incredible opportunity for Mads Mikkelsen?
You know what? He's had many incredible opportunities, but like they kept shitting on him by giving him nothing to do. All right. And I'm sick of it.
Hey, you talk about how the MCU doesn't do characters and they fuck up their villains. This isn't the MCU.
Yeah.
He's gonna be a villain again. He could do it.
Speaking of the MCU, they fucked him up in here too.
Mads Mikkelsen isn't in this.
Not in this one, but in Doctor Strange, he was the villain.
That was what I was implying. That was what I was referencing. So yeah, here's that. Let's see. Look at my notes. Yeah.
I liked when small truck went big truck.
We haven't even touched. so we I think the most notable thing about this movie when it came out was the fact that it introduced two characters, Black Panther and Spider-Man. And for most of America that didn't watch Ant-Man, I was like most of the world that didn't watch Ant-Man, it introduced Paul Rudd's Scott Lang. Some characters, like as I mentioned, better introduced than others. Black Panther, great introduction. I like the establishment of the father, and you get the sense of the country being this separate place. He's Chadwick, rest in peace, always incredible as T'Challa. Then you have shoo-inned Paul Rudd and Tom Holland.
You know, the thing is, like, most of the characters in this movie are established with just like singular lines here and there, which is like, this is why I'm here, which doesn't really give you much.
No.
And it feels like that's what we get more and more of as these movies go on, and they try to keep connecting the characters into other people's movies.
Yes, I think we just mentioned Doctor Strange. I think of the weird. Is it Thor who pops up? No, Doctor Strange
Pops up in Thor
right?
Ragnarok. Yeah,
It's like, why? I guess to establish them. And so yeah, those are the two glaring ones in this. Is I forgot Anthony Mackie shows up in Ant-Man.
Yeah, because Paul Rudd like fucks around at the Avengers base, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I was like, oh, that's why it's the last movie in Phase 2. For that scene alone. Um, yeah, and he's barely in this movie, but he has a lot of great one-liners. Paul Rudd.
Oh, you know what? And then Anthony Mackie says like that was a great audition, but it's not going to happen again. Does that imply that like he's not planning on having Ant-Man on the team
I don't
overall?
know. It sounds like that. How did they know where he was? How did they get the? There's so
Just the setup for that airport fight is just so terrible because it's
yes,
just like, all right, we need to grab these characters so that they could have that lined up shot where it's like equal on both sides. I feel like that's the main reason why, and it's just clunky how the script gets there.
yes. It's not logical for them to fight in an airport,
Oh,
and
but it's fine. They cleared it out.
it's so
They cleared it out, Miss
convoluted.
Simpson.
It's so convoluted how they get there.
And like they literally explained it the way that people were complaining about how Batman v Superman explained its final fight. But I don't remember anyone talking about it in this movie.
This is not as bad as Batman v Superman.
With that fight specifically, it is just as bad with the one line throwaway. It's like, oh yeah, there's no one here.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Martha.
Oh no, I was talking about with the
that is
aspect.
the only thing I remember at the end of Batman v Superman.
At the end of Batman v Superman, they like draw him away to like a place that's supposed to be like a dark zone, like uninhabited. But of course, there's like vagrants and people like that. Like homeless people find shelter in places where people don't live.
I don't.
And so, like, even though they're not on screen, you could like foresee like it's a very shoddy throwaway line. Whereas with this one, it's like, oh yeah, they cleared out the airport seconds before we arrived.
I don't even remember that line happening in this movie. I did have that thought when Wanda like pulls down cars from the parking lot. I'm like, is someone in the car? Who's paying for these cars? People need to get back home from the airport.
Oh, don't worry, everyone left.
That's good. That's good. And they didn't take their cars. I don't know what the answer to that is. Because as fucking dumb as it is, there's also a movie where
because it goes back to how this movie is trying to like talk about to grapple with that aspect of it where like should we take accountability for the damage we do through our fights, and just by showing just offhandedly waving that you can't have it both ways.
But how do you then have the movie?
Then don't raise that question.
I don't know.
At that point, you could just not hand wave it and have them worrying about people during that. They kind of did that in
they did
Ultron.
In the first Avenger. Oh, I was gonna say the first Avenger.
That too. But
yeah. When I said the first Avenger, I don't mean Captain America, the first Avenger. I mean the first Avengers movie. I'd like to clarify that to the audiences who are like, wait, what?
Yeah, it feels disingenuous in that sense.
That's fair. So there's no moment in this movie where you go, oh, that's cool. That's a cool moment.
I said when small truck becomes big truck.
I like his line after like, oh, well, it comes after Rhodey, who Rhodey really gets fucked in this movie so often. But it comes to Rhodey and Rhodey's like, come on. And then it's like a fire, not a fire truck, but a truck with fire in it. Does that make sense?
Oh no, it was a gas truck.
Yeah, that makes more sense than a fire truck without fire in it. And then Paul Rudd's like, oh, I thought that was water. I like that. It's funny. Like, I think it's badass when, and I know it's going to happen, but something about the way the music slows down and the way it's edited, when Sebastian Stan grabs that bike mid-drive and, like, gets on it, I'm like, that's cool. That's cool. I'm sorry for the bike driver, but that's cool.
going back to that, how it establishes that idea of like the heroes taking their responsibility. One line that I actually did like was when Vision was talking about how us being these superhuman, like these super beings, are drawing people to us,
Yes.
which meta wise, when you're making a movie like this, you have to come up with a reason why these super people are using these superpowers in a way that's unbidden so that it could be fun and cool.
Unbidden as in I'm an idiot. I'm sorry, please explain that word.
In the sense of like they don't feel the need to hold back so that you can see all the awesome spectacle.
Hmm. Well, you get Natasha and Clint later on being like, "Oh, you're holding back your punches," and then Wanda comes out of nowhere and fucks with Natasha.
I guess, but again, those feels like one line things.
So
You
you're
don't.
yours are you saying more of when it comes to big spectacle, why they would need to you need an equal force to fight them?
Um, I'm just saying that was an interesting idea that I don't think they even toyed with afterwards.
In this movie?
Yes,
Because is it not just the collective, all the villains coming after them? Whether it's this Loki, whether it's Ultron, whether it's Thanos, whether it's
I'm talking about in this movie.
oh, in this movie, oh, that's different. Can you argue that Zemo's not that, but more on a intellectual level than a physical level? Because he drives them to then want to destroy each other.
Mm, I don't know because that's there. You can't emotionally relate to Zemo because everything he does, everything that is related to that character is just explained in like monologues
Does
of
it
people explaining his character. So it just doesn't feel
he
substantial at all.
he has that voicemail with his wife? He listens to it early on in the movie, doesn't he? The first time, because then he does it again right before he's about to kill himself, and then Black Panther stops him.
Hmm. I don't know. I just feel like the centerpiece of this movie, the airport scene, just completely disregards the themes that it's trying to set up.
Oh yeah, it doesn't make sense that you want someone to go with you and you fight them and punch them. It doesn't, but it's fucking
And
cool.
just everything related to that scene just does not work for me overall. And I find it hilarious because it is like the center point of the movie.
Mm.
Like it's technically on the poster behind you.
It is. That was the selling point of this movie, and yeah, that's fair. It doesn't make sense that they're fighting this giant battle in an airport on an on a literal why are they at the airport, but also like, was this the only way you could get each other to listen to each other? You know that if even if you beat them, they're gonna resent you for this. So I don't know. I do. My favorite moment of this is the trio fight between Bucky, Cap, and Iron Man. It reminds me. I can't believe we're going back. I'm going back to this again, but the final Star Wars fight in Phantom Menace.
You
Kind
were
of,
talking last week about how you don't remember that.
I remember the sensation. I don't remember what the fuck happens, but there's just this. It feels more ferocious than I expect from a Hollywood blockbuster movie.
Hmm.
I don't know. What are your thoughts on that final fight?
I really liked that 40-second shot that was used in the trailer where it was just like Iron Man in the middle and the two people on the other side of the shield kept bouncing between all three of them
I like that
as
you
they
say.
did
I
the
like that you
hand-to-hand
said
combat.
they showed it in the trailer, as if
Yeah.
like, yeah, It's still. I don't know if that's ruins a movie if it's in the trailer.
It's not, but like I bring that up because that's actually the thing that excited me to see this movie when it came out.
Hmm.
The fact that they did have one stable shot of action like that. And I was hoping to have more of it, but even in that fight, it was just that for the most part.
Do you think part of it is the fact that they have so many special effects? Because I
You know, the thing with that is like, I feel like a movie like Shazam, that was mostly special effects, but it still kept steady shots.
how large are they the effects? And again, I don't know how fucking visual effects work.
I mean, we're gonna get into this later on when we talk about the later two Avengers movies because man, does it get ridiculous.
We're gonna have such varying opinions. I know this for already. We're gonna have such varying opinions on that.
But yeah, but the thing is, it's not the visual effects that they really cut around. They cut around the hand-to-hand combat the most.
As we got into this discussion, I was thinking of like Natasha and Clint fighting, or Natasha fighting anyone.
And it's just like, could you not get a better stunt coordinator to actually show it?
Is that the coordinator or the direction?
I mean, it's just like a culmination of that entire team. Could they not do more?
What if
Because
that's what they wanted to do?
I know that the way that these things are shot is that it seems like they bring on a B team for these action scenes to like shoot them. And like,
is that how it's shot? I don't know.
Yeah. I think I read or heard somewhere where that was the case. If it's not, I'm misremembering, but I do. Yeah.
I think of Jackie Chan, which is going to sound really weird. But Jackie Chan talks about how when he's working in China, he's such a big name that he's allowed to do whatever he wants. And so he's allowed to do these long takes over and over and over again, take his time, pick as much money as he wants because they trust that he's going to do it. And so he's able to do these incredible stunts in these long one takes. But it comes to America, and there's so much money put into these movies. They're on such a rigid schedule that have to be done ASAP that they don't allow them to do these takes, do these long tracking shots.
Okay. So if that's the case, how are you not spending more time on what's supposed to be the initial draw of these movies? Or is it just that they're at that point where they don't need to worry about that anymore?
No, it's done then on the editing. Can it not be, this is a genuine question. Can you not applaud the editing even more for tricking so much of the mass audience?
I guess, but like, I don't know, it ends up feeling more hollow when you are trying to actually glean anything from it.
But it's not. These movies are never, hey, we're actually fighting. It's, hey, here's the illusion of fighting. Right? So if something like John Wick is about, hey, we're doing these stunts. Something like a Jackie Chan movie is, hey, we're actually doing this. But it's the illusion of making it feel real that sells these movies, right?
And this is where I come back to my Transformers comparison.
But Transformers is over the top.
Which in a sense I think works better. Because like I do really get a sense of spectacle from those.
That's odd. Those are the ones that numb my mind. And maybe it's because the action in Transformers is mainly the Transformers themselves rather than these the human characters. And although yeah, they have their masks on, so there's probably a lot of CGI for the actual characters, but my mind says, "Oh, this is a human inside the suit. I can relate to that more than a robot."
Okay. You know what? Fair
Well,
enough, but like
We're gonna
my
have
main thing,
we're gonna be discussing this for like 18 more Marvel movies.
my main problem, especially in this movie, is that you don't really get much of a spectacle in the fights because they don't really use their powers in many fun ways.
I think you get a lot of the freshness of Black Panther, Spider-Man, and Ant-Man. I think you get a little of that in the final fight with Cap Shield and a little of what Iron Man can do, especially when he's losing his what his suit can abilities. I think Natasha and Clint, what can they do?
Again, most of the fights in this movie just feel like I'm overpowering you, which
is that not what they're trying to do?
yes, but if you're trying to sell me on spectacle, just being like doesn't do much.
Well, we don't focus on Wanda and Vision, who I think are the two you get that type of thing with often. I think there's enough to characters you love turning on each other. Whether or not you love the characters is a different thing, but I think there's something to that. I think there's something to I don't know. Ant-Man turns giant. that's fun.
I guess. But like honestly, if we're gonna go into like the practical effects of that, I'd rather watch the Lord of the Rings movies again.
That's fair. I feel like most people will say that they like the Lord of the Ring movies better than this. Like that's not a controversial take.
Yeah, but just like from the point of view where it's like it doesn't feel that like great, even that like that big in the moment for me.
What does I'm lost. Which movie are you talking about?
This one
or this one? It
yeah.
Doesn't feel as grand of a scale.
Yeah, or like as a spectacle either.
Is that because there's so few people? And the fights are more intimate. There's a lot of one-on-one fighting.
Again, no, it's just in the way they showed the powers. They didn't really have any fun ways of going about it. Like Spider-Man doesn't really do many interesting things in this fight. And like I feel like he's one of the ones that has some really fun powers.
Yes, but this is the first time you've seen Spider-Man use his webs against other superheroes. And I think this movie was able to, because it's his first time in the MCU, just his appearance is enough of a spectacle. And then you get to develop it and you get to learn his other powers in the next movie, especially as he has the Iron Man suit in the next movie. I feel bad. I feel like we were at butting heads a lot in this episode.
Because we're in a civil war, Ma Simpson.
Whoa, is this the start of the episode again? Whoa. Listener, I know you think you actually hit rewind on your podcast, but no, we're still here.
Yeah, at the end of this movie, I was just tired.
That's fair. So this movie does paint Tony as being wrong, right?
Yes.
All right, just want to make sure. Nice little Stan Lee cameo. Always fun to see him in the movie. I completely forgot about this film's post-credit scenes. Bucky's in Wakanda now, and which I guess it looks like he's gonna be in Black Panther, and then he's not until the post-credit scene, I think. And Spidey has a Iron Man suit version thing.
You know, I remember watching Infinity War and being like, why is Bucky in Wakanda? And it's like, oh yeah,
Yep.
it was because all the insubstantial post-credit scenes were like, he's in Wakanda.
I'm really curious if Bucky's an actual character in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, because he is not in these movies. And no offense to Sebastian Stan, I enjoy what he does,
Honestly, it
but
just seems like the TV shows at this point are just trying to fill in where the movies are just failing to actually build characters.
yeah, but they've never, as we mentioned, and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but as we mentioned, they're so overbloated that they have been able to
Okay,
focus on Wanda
what's
or
what's
Major
the
Moon,
name of the second Captain America movie?
the Winter Soldier. The point of that is that he's so mysterious, though. You're not supposed to know much about Winter Soldier until it unravels.
I if, from my memory, he was only in like 2 or 3 scenes in that movie.
He's in more of that movie. It's because he says nothing and is brooding and is kind of uninteresting.
Which
But
again, like, and the
you're
thing
not.
is, most of these the thing that upsets me the most is that most of these Marvel movies kill off their villains. So, like, even say they decide to introduce an interesting villain that they do nothing with. Oh, too late. He's dead. You can't
How
even do
many?
something interesting later.
How many of those?
Um, I'd say the Whiplash.
Whoa! I haven't even seen that movie. I was not waiting for that response.
Um,
Because Michael B. Jordan, Killmonger.
you know, they get better at it in phase 3. I'll give them that.
But like Michael Keaton's still alive. Uh, do they kill Kate Blanchett in Thor Ragnarok?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a shame.
But like
But like
again, that's later. I'm not talking phase 3. I'm talking one
Zemo's
and
still
two.
alive. Uh, um,
Uh,
Ultron's dead. Yeah. Who's the villain in
Ultron.
Iron Man 3? Oh, Iron Man 3 had a sucky villain.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Which I like what they did with Mandarin, and I'm kind of upset. Apparently, they are going to introduce an actual Mandarin
oh,
later.
that sucks.
Again,
Oh,
they're
hey,
just
hey, hey.
demolishing Iron Man 3.
Does that mean does that mean Ben Kingsley is can he still show up? Can we get both Mandarins? Everyone's happy with if both Mandarins are there.
Um,
Like no one
if
cares about the
anything, like
Guardians of
that
the.
was the one example of them subverting the idea of the sucky villain that they
I like it.
had up until that point that was actually good
I
because
like
they
it.
subverted it.
But then,
But then it was still a shit villain.
yeah. But like
Which I
look,
heard apparently um who was the woman in that one? The one who was working the botanist.
oh fuck.
Apparently
Fuck, fuck.
she was supposed to be the main villain of that movie initially. But of
Oh,
course the
who the
person in
head of
charge of Marvel at the time was like, "Oh, we can't have a war."
the dude who hated women and people of color. Ooh, Rebecca Hall. That's Rebecca Hall. I forgot that was Rebecca Hall.
Yeah, she was initially supposed to be the main villain of that movie, and that would have made so much more sense and would have been much stronger.
Have you heard about her upcoming movie,
What?
Rebecca Hall? So I just read of this recently.
Mhm.
Yeah, she's directing this movie based off a book called Passing. The premise, according to Wikipedia, mixed race childhood friends reunite in middle class adulthood and become increasingly involved with one another's lives and insecurities. While Irene identifies as African American and is married to a black doctor, Claire passes as white and has married a prejudiced but wealthy white man. Uh,
I feel like I just saw that in the latest episode of This Is Us, but like obviously not exactly the same. But yeah,
Great cast: Tessa Thompson, Ruth Negga, Andre Holland, Alexander Skarsgård, Bill Camp. I'm excited for it. Rebecca Hall. That's our little Rebecca Hall talk.
but yeah, there's like um Mads Mikkelsen. I'm
Yeah,
still mad about that.
hold on. We know the real villain in that movie. Tilda Swinton's casting. I saw you know how people point up actors that, like understood the assignment. Someone did one for Tilda, and the first role they show is her in Doctor Strange. I'm like, hold up, she did not understand that assignment at all. We love Tilda, but
I
come
mean,
on.
my favorite example of that meme is like Jared Leto never understands the assignment.
What are you talking about? Golden Globe and SAG nominee for The Little Things is Jared Leto.
That was him throughout the entirety of The Little Thing.
I don't fucking. I was kind of on board on that movie at first. Like the first 10, 20 minutes, like, okay, I can get on board on where this is going. And it loses everything by the end.
Because it just meanders for most of its runtime.
God.
And it just wants you to sympathize with police.
Would you rather watch this or The Little Things again?
This.
Right.
Because at least The Little Things, at least this. I was about to say that at least this didn't try to pull off of like a cab low key moment, but like this low key does.
Real, I think this is.
I mean, it's like anti-authority. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does low key a cab, but really, in a sense, aren't these heroes their own sense of authority?
That's fair. That's an interesting deduction to make. I like when Tony is visiting them in their prison, and then
we're gonna come back to that in a later segment.
Oh, but out of nowhere, Falcon's like, "Oh, are you a good cop or bad cop? Well, if you're a good cop, you better go all Mark Furman on me or something." I was not expecting a Mark Furman reference, a reference to the OJ trials in this movie. So I bring that up. The FedEx product placement in this movie at the end.
What was it?
Stanley's like a FedEx.
Oh yeah.
And you see the logo on the truck, and as Tony opens the package.
Honestly, I don't know why. At this point, I feel like my mind associates Ant-Man in these movies with like delivery drivers.
Wait, with what?
With delivery drivers.
I like to say product placement.
That too. Because of course, like all of his things that he makes miniature or big are like things with the names of the product on it.
Pawan, are you telling me that you did not need a Hello Kitty Pez dispenser in your movie?
You know what? We're going to go back to Transformers for a second, because one of the things that Michael Bay said in response to people talking about his product placement in the movies is just like that's there in the real world. We are inundated with this stuff. I'm just presenting it as it is, and I'm getting money for it. But like that is the world.
I'll be honest, that's not a bad answer. That's not a terrible answer. Oh, we didn't mention the helicopter pole scene.
He pulls a helicopter.
It's dumb. Kind of cool. It's dumb. I like the sound design of this film. I like the noises of the powers. Bucky's arm doing stuff. The claws on Black Panther doing stuff. I liked that.
You know what? I'm gonna say it. I'm gonna say it. You're not gonna be happy.
What?
Given the loud explosions of this, I'd rather go back to Dark Knight Rises.
Oh, hold up. I do like that. I do like that. That's a fun one. That's a good one. I noticed when Cap goes to Wanda's room, she has a guitar and a music stand with sheet music open. And so I'm like, of course, this is setting up the fact that Wanda is into the arts, thus setting up WandaVision. It makes perfect sense now. Oh, there was something else I wanted to bring up. Oh, whatever. I did like I like that the Russo brothers throw in a community cameo every time they direct a Marvel movie. So this one you get Jim Rash popping up for a quick second in the beginning. Oh, I muted myself by accident. Did you hear my sentence?
I heard about you enjoying him getting a sentence at the beginning
A
cameo.
sentence at the beginning?
Yes,
Did
he
you
got a
mute yourself
sentence.
too? The Jim Rash from Community is popping up. Alfie Woodard is in this briefly. She's the mom of the kid who's killed. That was cool. Alfie Woodard's terrific. John Canny is it Canny? John.
I don't know.
I feel like we've personally had a conversation about him. He's Chadwick's dad in this movie.
Have we talked about him?
I feel like we've talked about the fact that he's a playwright. Because I went on his
Oh.
Wikipedia page last night and like, oh, I remember talking to Pawan about this once outside of the podcast.
What has he written?
I'm looking right now. Looking.
How do you spell it?
Kani. The other place he was in. I can't find it. Wikipedia sucks when you want to learn about plays. Like they list all the movies, but they don't list the plays and stuff they do.
Right.
But
We'll see it when we see it. Maybe.
Yeah. We'll discuss him in Black Panther because he pops up in that too, and he's very good in this. There's something I wanted to bring up, but I don't know what it was, and that's gonna bother me. Oh well. Oh, the de-aging Disney technology was in this movie. When it's like young Tony talking to his people.
yeah.
That was weird. It didn't look great.
I mean, they could have played around with that, being like the technology in his machine isn't all there.
Yeah, but then you're basically admitting that it's not incredible.
Yeah, but why is that the one time they don't like add in a line to like get ahead of the cinema sins? Why is that the one time they don't do that?
That was probably the best they could do in the moment. It's not that it's bad. It's just not, it improved as it went on. I'm sure we'll talk about it in Captain Marvel.
Oh, I'm sure we'll talk about it in the Star Wars movies.
Oh, we are.
Rogue One.
Rogue One. Rise of Skywalker does it. Yeah. And I just want to put out there, every one of the actors does great work in this movie. Like, I don't think there's anyone half-assing it, which you would think after 19 of these movies, someone might. But whether it's ScarJo, Sebastian Stan, Anthony Mackie, Jen Mariner, Elizabeth Olsen, and Chris Evans and Rob Downey Jr. are really terrific in these movies. Like, even in like a weaker movie like Ultron, they're terrific, and I think this is better than Ultron, I'd say. Maybe
you know what?
We'll find out.
You know which movie spectacle in the Marvel Cinematic Universe I enjoyed more than this one?
Which one?
Thor: The Dark World.
I don't remember anything about that movie.
The final fight, they were heavily inspired by Portal.
You would think that would make me like it, but I have no clue what happens in that movie.
So like they literally jump between like this one like community area at like a college, and then they go like straight into Asgard and then straight into like outer space and stuff like that through these portals.
It's been 7 years. Are we about to get those? Thor: Dark World really is the best Marvel movie takes.
Okay. No, it's again
No.
shit villain that they killed off. That could have been so much better. They had Christopher Eccleston. Come on.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, it's been 7 years and everyone kind of agrees that's the worst one. Like, that's gonna happen soon.
I mean, I like it better than some of the others.
That's fair. I genuinely have no memories of that movie except when they kill Renee Russo, Thor's mom. I remember that being like, oh, did that. All right, well, I think that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Would you say this is a perfect movie?
No.
Really? I thought with
I
what you
know,
talked
right?
about.
From this entire conversation, you would think I was like, I thought this was the #1 movie in the universe.
Oh,
But
I
no,
would have thought.
because no movie's perfect.
Yeah, no, the movie's perfect. Well, and it's time
And
for
you know
us to
what?
improve this movie.
There are ways that movies can be fixed, and we could
Yes.
do that. Miss Simpson, how would
Yep.
you fix this movie?
I will start. All right. So in the opening action sequence, Cap's like, "All right, Wanda, just like we practiced," and then she throws him in the air, right? So I want Cap to go, "All right, Wanda, just like we practiced," and then close up. Well, not close up, but a shot kind of zooms in on her face and then freezes on a close up of, "Oh, did you hear that car speeding by my window?"
I did.
Whoa, that was the camera closing up and landing on her face. So it lands on her face, and then she's like really scared. And then flashback. And it's a montage of her trying to throw him up stuff. And they practice. So there's like a lot of takes where it doesn't work right. Oh no. But then it ends with the time that they do perfect it. And Steve's like,
Wait.
"Hey, Wanda, we gotta run. We got this mission to do."
You know what that reminds me a lot of?
What?
Spider-Man Turn Off the Dark. How they needed to keep rehearsing that so that they could avoid the poor actors from falling multiple times.
Well, turns out they couldn't avoid it. They didn't rehearse enough. Did you know a lot of the cast in that movie, in that musical, the main cast will go on to do Hadestown on Broadway in the opening cast of Hadestown?
That sounds
They
amazing. I
they
need to
share
watch
like
both of them back to back.
they share like 3 or 4 cast members in the original cast. So yeah, that's my first fix. And then they showed them getting it right, and Cap's like, "All right, Wanda, let's go. We have this mission to do." And then cut to her just staring blankly, and Cap's like, "Hey, Wanda, come on, throw me." And then she throws him, right? And then later on, uh, it's a civil war, right? And yet, it's so messy. They destroy everything. Not so civil at all. And so,
Not as civil as our war that we got going
No.
on right now.
and so they get to the airport, and out of nowhere, who shows up? I don't know. Maria Hill. She's there to do anything they need her to. So sure, let's do her. She shows up,
Mhm.
and she's on a stage. On the stage, there's 2 podiums, right? Maria Hill, did you know? She was the president of her high school's debate club. So the Civil War is not a battle of fists, but rather a battle of the mind.
Mhm.
As we all know, Zemo, not a punchy villain, but an intellectual villain. And so this is a test of their intellectual states. And so it's a debate battle at the end. Sorry, not at the end, in the middle. All right. It's a
Mhm.
debate battle, not a fist battle.
Does Zemo show up at any point during that battle?
No. Zemo doesn't know where they are. Zemo's so I sporadically thought the movie after, let's say, starting with the debate battle to the end of the movie, you get shots of Zemo just sitting outside of that building at the end, waiting for them to show up. Just waiting. It's a debate battle, not a fist battle. No fisticuffs.
I mean, they don't have to fight Zemo if he shows up. Just like
Oh no, I mean in the middle. In the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then at the end, you do get the fight between the trio, but all right. And then, as we know, Wanda loves the arts. And so after the first post-credit scene, a song begins. It's Wanda was singing the song. It's an original song written for the film. Written
What were
by
the 2 post-credit scenes?
it's Bucky and then Spidey.
Oh yeah,
Which
cool.
the teaser of Wakanda is pretty badass.
Yeah,
So yeah, post-credit scene sung by Elizabeth Olsen with her guitar. It's acoustic song written by Jeremy Renner, and that's it.
You gotta live for nah.
That's a callback to the first Avenger movie. I think that's when that came up.
Maybe.
So that's how I fixed this movie.
Mhm. Well, you know what, Miss Simpson, I got some fixes too.
Ooh.
So let's talk about that airplane battle,
Yes.
airport battle for a bit. Tony, before going to the airport, he's like, you know what? Let me pick up this kid, and then what I'd do is he'd go into the kid's room, and then he'd have a conversation with him, and just be like, "You're not ready," and then just leave. That's it. That's what I do with that. Uh, and then with Black Panther, I'd have Tony just send him the USB file that has all the information about who actually was behind the bomb, and he'd be like, "Bet." So like he never fights with Bucky. He just goes and talks to Zemo.
I like that.
And then, so what were the big what were the big superhero movies that came out around the time of this movie?
2016, Batman v Superman, Deadpool,
We had Batman v Superman.
X-Men. Was it X-Men Apocalypse
what
this
was
year?
the other DCEU movie that came out during this time?
Oh, the Squad Up.
Yeah,
Are they
Suicide Squad.
some kind of Suicide Squad?
And you know, the Batman v Superman movie led so well directly into Suicide Squad. And there's this one scene in this movie where like half the people involved are behind bars. And what was that on Wanda's neck? Something was blinking. Mayhaps it be a bomb that would go off if she doesn't do what her boss tells her to do.
Mayhaps.
So at that point, instead of Tony being like, I know I messed up, he'd be like, you guys really messed up. And now I'm your new boss. And you're going to be my Suicide Squad.
Is the other Suicide Squad also in the prison?
What do you mean the other one? No, this is parallel universes still.
Okay,
That's
okay.
DC. This is Marvel.
Okay.
They just so happen to be thinking the same thing at the same time, because like we were talking about how this movie and Batman v Superman were talking about the whole individual life in wake of a big battle thing. So now go on to the next step. You got to set up the next one as well.
I see. That's genius. Well done. Do you have any more? Or is that it?
That's it.
Well done. That was a great one at the end. Wow. I think we made this movie much better.
Yeah.
But how better than the original? If we made it better, how good was the original state? You know what I'm saying? That's what I was trying to say.
Well, it's time for the most important segment of our show, because we know evaluating art is not about opinions.
No, not at all.
It's about objective truth.
Oh, where did the Zoom call go?
It seems I have vanished from the Simpsons screen.
It's fine. All good. Pawan, count down from 3, please.
3, 2, 1, go.
Time to rank this movie.
All right.
As we do, flip a coin.
Heads.
Countdown again, please.
Just press the button.
Trying to have some suspense here, all right? It's heads. Wow. It's heads.
Okay.
Oh, no. All right, Pawan. Last week, we talked about J.J. Abrams' Star Wars The Force Awakens, number 13 on the $1 Billion Movie Club ranking. Oh, do you like this movie better or worse than Star Wars The Force Awakens?
Gonna have to say worse. I know, shocking.
Actually, I am kind of shocked by that. Do you like this better or worse than Titanic?
Worse.
All right. Better or worse than Jurassic World?
Ooh. That's a tough one. So on the one hand, yes, Jurassic World is a much stupider movie. And yes, it does have that weird relationship between Bryce Dallas Howard and Chris Pratt.
Mm.
But it didn't try to be more than it could actually handle.
Okay. I'll give you that.
I'm going to say worse.
All right, how are we doing this? Do you like this better or worse than Frozen?
Worse.
Better
Well,
or
it
worse?
would be worse than Hobbit in that case, which it's still worse.
Better or worse than Minions?
I'm seeing what's underneath Minions, and I don't want to do it.
Do you
And
like
you
this
know what?
better?
I
Do
did-
you
I
like this
did-
better or worse than Minions?
You know what? I had a jolly good time with Minions. I did.
I didn't
It's
think there
worse
was.
than Minions.
I thought that was going to be obviously your answer. I didn't think there was a lot of internal conflict with that. Okay, wow, we haven't been this low on the list in a while. Do you like this better or worse than Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest?
I like it better. than
Wow,
Dead Man's Chest.
I didn't think we were going this low. Wow, huh? So Min 35.
You know, this is where the Marvel movies started to really ramp up its interconnectivity. But for me, this is where my fatigue started setting in.
I think, and I mentioned this earlier, I think this is when they start unifying a bit in tone and atmosphere. And I think eventually you do get your Thor Ragnaroks, you get your Spider-Man Homecomings, you get your Black Panthers, where there's a sense of individuality, but it's very much lost in these ones. So Min 35, max 36. There's one of two options. The number we get is 35. Captain America: Civil War, 35.
Marvel Studios, Captain America, Civil War, mind
I
you.
don't think that's for this one.
Yes, it is.
No,
On the Disney Plus, it said Marvel Studios, Captain America, Civil
What?
War.
Wikipedia doesn't say that.
When I started the movie and like the top left corner, it says what the name of the movie is. It says Marvel Studios, Captain America, Civil War.
Oh, that's crazy.
Let's go down the ranking.
Wait, hold on.
What's at
so
47?
how do you want to do this? Because Disney Plus says Iron Man 3 with a number, but in the end it says 3 spelled out.
It's fine the way it is.
Okay.
Start us off.
At number 47, Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides.
At 46, we have Alice in Wonderland.
Oh God, I forgot we did that movie. Number 45, Toy Story 3.
At number 44, Avatar.
41, 41, Transformers: Dark of the Moon.
At number 40, Avengers: Age of Ultron.
38, Transformers: Age of Extinction.
37, Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest.
35, Captain America: Civil War.
34, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
33, The Dark Knight Rises.
32, The Dark Knight.
31, the Marvel. Take 2. 31, Marvel's The Avengers.
30, Minions.
28, The Hobbit: An Unexpected Journey.
27, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2.
26, Jurassic Park.
25, Iron Man 3.
24, Frozen.
22, Jurassic World.
Tied at number 21, Dr. Seuss's How the Grinch Stole Christmas, Jordan Peele's Us, and
Number
Who the Heck
19,
Knows.
Titanic.
13, Star Wars: The Force Awakens.
Number 3, Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Number 2, Furious 7.
Number 1, Skyfall.
And that's how it crumbles. Do we stand tall? Yes, we stand very tall, like Ant-Man. When you face it all at Skyfall. What a good movie Skyfall is.
Yeah. What a good boomer movie.
Well, thank you for joining us for this week's episode of the $1 Billion Movie Club, where we look at movies and say, why did you make money? Subscribe to us on the YouTubes, the Spotify's. Is it Apple Podcast? It's
And you know
Google
what? If you
Podcast.
feel like it, email us. But since
Email
what's
us.
that email again?
Oh, the email, billion_movie club at Civil War is better than Pawan thinks it is, but it's not that great. It's good, not incredible. I think other people think of it too highly. As some people think of too lowly, but somewhere in
You
the
know what?
middle at _squarespace.com.
And then add it to that. You know what? Is this lower than Transformers? Either Transformers movie? If it is, good.
Juan, just so they hear it, can you repeat that email address one more time?
billion_movie club at Civil War is better than Pawan thinks it is, but it's not great. But it's okay. .com. And then added to that, you have to add the words "and added to that." Is this movie lower ranked than Transformers? If so, good.
I don't know why I like this bit so much, but I like it. Oh, okay.
Shout out to Max Lizamacchio for the art.
Yeah, shout out to Max. I don't know why I like that so much. Join us next week where we talk about Zootopia. Zootopia. It's nice to have a movie where I don't have to catch up on 19 movies.
It's nice to have a movie less than 2 hours.
Oh, that's really nice. I will say this is the longest we've had in a while.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Like we hit a good 2-hour point for a while. And then I think Star Wars maybe be 10, 15 minutes longer than that. And this is half hour.
I mean, I'd rather rewatch Titanic than this.
Titanic's so good. Well, that was the podcast. Thank you. Join us next week for Zootopia on the Disney Plus streaming service.
Much like all the movies we're going to talk about that came out this year.
Oh, yeah, this is a month of Disney. Actually, I think next year starts with Fate of the Furious. So, yeah, a whole month of Disney.
Well, no, next year starts with Beauty and the Beast. And then we get Furious 8.
Is Beauty and the Beast before Furious? Oh, I want to watch the Fate of the Furious already. I've been holding it for the week, but I'm like, I want to watch it. I might rewatch all of them before Fate of the Furious. But until then,
I have been Pawan Mehta.
And I'm Christian Missons.
Wait, you are or you have been? Because I have been Pawan Mehta. I don't know who I will be, but I have been.
Anybody got some orange slices?
I'm Black Widow, baby. Pew, 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 pew. We could just say Underoos and that's it.
No, because I know how I'm going to go after.
Okay, fine. You do the thing. Underoos. Okay, that time I can't hear anything.
Wait, let's fuck it then.
Spend 15 minutes on this bullshit.
This is the other post-credit scene.